What's up, y'all? This is Hussein Nasser from iGeometry. In the previous episode for ArcGIS for JavaScript, what we did in our beautiful application here is we made it work offline with air quotes. So offline in a sense that the API reference is now referencing our local version of the API. So we did actually two things. We migrated to the new version of the API, which is 4.5, and we also made it offline. So that's why we're not relying on js.arcgis.com as a host, because a lot of applications are hitting that server and sometimes it becomes unavailable. So it's just we're completely isolated. Not really, but we're still using other online services, such as the sample service 6, which has all these beautiful services. So we're still having an ArcGIS server. So the point of this is we want to hit these services and we want to build applications with that, right? To use a free service. All right, so in this episode, yeah, man, I want to do some refactoring. Maybe this will take 1 or 2 episodes just to clean up our code in order to move to the next stage where we write more advanced kind of concepts of applications, right? So we want to fix a lot of problems in our code where when we built this table of content, we did not take into consideration that the paging of this table. So like remember, right? So we have in the water lateral lines, we have like 19,000 features, but we're only displaying, I believe, the first 50 or 100. So we need an ability to page through these different kind of records, right? Because you cannot, there's no way to fetch all these 19,000 and to display them. Just doesn't make any sense. It's not scalable, right? Because it will just kill your performance. So that's why we fish page by page. All right, so yeah, this episode, more cleanup. So a lot of JavaScript, lots of JavaScript, some cleanup, refactoring, cleaning up our code. So that's good. Let's get started. Let's just take a look. All right. So I didn't actually rehearse any of that. So you'll be actually working with me just to clean out the code. So nothing really hard here. So just discuss as we find things that are not quite wrong. So we have constants here. That looks good. So require. Maybe we'll just go through the code and see how it works. So it's actually good exercise to go through the code. All right, so yeah, require esri map view, esri request, map image, legend, and search. That's the latest thing we added. And that function, we have a beautiful big function. Let's just I think there is a way to collapse that. Oops. There's a way to collapse that so we can see what other functions inside there. So there is a populate map services function. What does this function do? Populate map services. This queries the populate map services. All right, so this is actually receiving a response in order to do something, which is basically populating the list, right? And adding it's actually doing this work. It's populating this. But it is a result of, let's expand that. Yeah, so you notice, right? So this is actually a result of a query that we make to this, and then populate, and then we're going to call it populate map service, which is in the same function. So to me, I want populate map service to be one function. So there's like leftover stuff that is calling this function. So maybe maybe we'll fix that. Maybe we'll actually need to fix that. What do you think, guys? So let's just quickly fix that. So how can we fix that? We want to put a function that calls that puppy, and then the populate map service is just as a response. All right, let's do that. Let's cut this code and put it here. We don't need these comments, right? And then here, we'll actually just call populate map services. Let's start adding some more comments. How about that? Query the sample server and list all map services in a dropdown. It actually looks much better. All right, we do that. And here, what do we need to give it parameters? We'll think about them. So now this doesn't take any parameters. But this now, look at that. Request then it takes a function which is all this code. So we can do this. Yeah. So since remember that map service, well, it was used to take a response. So let's actually use an arrow function here. So then we're gonna do response, and then all this code just pasted here. Does that make sense, guys? I think it does, right? Nice. Maybe just pull this a little back here. Yeah. So we have a request. We'll run the service again and see if it still executes. So we should still, our application just normally work after that. It just becomes more readable. All right, sample service, options, we're passing the options, and then a promise. Then once this option executes, great, go and call the function then just pass another function, which is this puppy. Now everything is just encapsulated, and then just I can just shove this and hide it because I don't care anymore. So now when I read this code, I see it's very nice. Okay, legend, and then populate map services. I don't have like different kind of code that I have to read and then split, and then some leftovers stuff. So everything is nicely done in one place. All right. Okay, sir. Oh, looks good. Response, that's the function. That's the parameter that is sent as a response of executing this URL. Remember, guys, this is just executing this is just executing a JSON and then pulling all the services. Nicely done. Nicely done. Nicely done. All right. Before we continue, let's just save and then make sure that our application actually runs without any problems. Oh, that is nice. That is nice. Okay. So now we have a slightly better readable code. So that's the first thing we wanted to do, populate map services. And then this is a function that we call. We can move this down, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna move this down because it's on the way. And on-change service map, that's another function that is kind of related to this, and it's a very important function. So that's the next thing that we're calling here, on-change service map. Do we have any other function or code that executes after that? Nope, that's the last two functions. So what we do here in the beginning of the initialize of the application is we generate the base maps, right? And I believe this is this. And then after we do that, because it's not related or it's not dependent on any other thing, so it's just, we don't need the map for this to function, so it's just populating the maps. And then we have the default. These are the default. Map view, continue, populate map services, and that will populate all the map services. And then on change service map will, I believe, will populate the table of content. So now it's clear that we need a function called build talk. We do not have that. We do not have a function called build table of content. Definitely we don't. All right, so how does it work? Change service map. When someone changes a service map, which is a service on change, what happens? We take the selected service, by default it's water network, and then we load a map layer. We pull it that, give it that service, selected service, and then remove any maps that is possibly in the current map view, and then add that layer instead. And then once that layer is ready, we start building the table of content, which is what we call populate layer recursive, right? It is actually, if you think about it, it's a table of content. So we're calling it populate layer recursive. And we spent a lot of time writing this code, I remember, yeah. Populate layer recursive. So you pass it the first layer and a layer list and start populating every single layer there. Ooh, your disk is critically low. That's bad. That is really bad. Populate layer recursive. After we do that, map view.goto layer.fullExtent. Looking good. So that will basically zoom to the layer that is just loaded, and then we'll basically zoom to the full extent of that layer. All right, and then this populates, we'll go through this function, populate layer recursive, and then, yeah, look at that. Wow, we wrote a lot of code, guys. Can you imagine? That's a lot of code. All right, so populate layers, we're building all that checkboxes, the tags, the buttons. Yeah, I think we're gonna keep that. Hopefully we just call it build talk. If we're not comfortable with the name, we can change it, but it's not really bad. So you can see the chaining, like as I chain this will call another function, which will then call another function. I'd like to put this into a function, really. And I call this, hopefully, yeah, let's call this function build talk. And then really just do that. When the layer is ready, just build the talk. It doesn't take anything, so we're good here. I don't think we need those parentheses. Let's try this out. I don't think. That's nice. We'll try to make this episode as short as possible. Maybe we'll split them into two so it doesn't become a lot of overwhelming stuff. So maybe we'll start another episode or another series, another episode just to do more cleanup. Just trying to clean up the code really. So let's see if our code really still works. Didn't break anything. Nice. It still works, still function, really nice. So we have build table of content on change, still calling it build talk. That's cool. That's the response. On change build talk, we'll call the layer recursive and start building all the stuff. What is this git count? I have no idea. Let's take a look. When are we calling this git count? Aha, there you go. So git count is a really odd place to have it. So it takes a layer ID. When do we execute it again? Oh, look at that. We execute it all the time for each single layer. So that's it's a bit expensive, but yeah. So we'll think about it. So right now, think about it, because this is a bit expensive now. Now that I think about it, it's a bit expensive too. For each single layer, you're actually querying, because you might figure out, you're just hitting the server. Hey, give me this layer. How much features are there? How much features are there? So if you have like n layers, you're gonna have n queries. All right. So maybe we want to do something about that. So the cost of these queries will come as a result of yeah, I have layers here, but do I need to see the counts of all these layers all the time, or should I hide those? And if a user wants to see how many features are there, he will basically click on that. What do you think, guys? I would actually just put a button there that says, hey, click on me, and I will tell you, I will query the table of content, and I will tell you how many features are there. So we kind of fixed this. This doesn't look right. So we were doing it just to explain the concept, but now we have to change this. I believe we have to change this. Let's go ahead and clean this up as well. All right. So yeah, populate layer recursive, definitely. We're not gonna call it git count. We might hide this function altogether. But what are we doing here? We're building a button. There is a button, and it used to be called count. Now we're gonna call it view attribute table. Or maybe we'll put a beautiful icon there. But for now, just a view table. Something like that. And now, comment this out. But there's a big problem here, because we just broke, maybe there is no. Let's try that. Refresh. Yeah. Oh man, that's just, oh, my eyes hurt now. Maybe we should put an icon or something. But now it still works. But now I just saved myself. If you notice that even it's faster to load, right? Compared to if you do this. I don't know if you guys notice, but it's actually doing work, right? So whenever it's actually good that we're doing this exercise. So we're just cleaning up the code, things that are slowing our application down, just butcher it and do it something else. Do something that actually scalable. All right, so view attribute table. Maybe I'll consider adding a noise button, or just how about we call the view? Yeah, that's much better. View. Yeah. Can I add like a little space between those? They are really tight, guys. They are really tight into each other. I'm not sure if I can add a space or something. Okay, so if I do this layer, the title, that's the label, right? This puppy is actually this. So if I do this, and I'm not sure if this will work or not. What happens if I do this? Okay, that's good. Now just we're pushing it a little bit. So if I put a spaces here, does it work? Yeah, I think it did, right? I think it did. Yeah, I think I think it did. Yeah. Let's go to Naperville. Naperville. Look at that. Let's see if our hiding stuff works or not. Yeah, does this still work? Yeah, works perfectly. Details, hide everything. Yep, works. All right. Okay, so yeah, so now we do not have a function called getCount. We still have it, but it's just nobody's calling it. But now I don't know the count of this function. Maybe we'll do that in the next episode to do more cleanup. All right, where are we? Populating layer recursive. I'm gonna keep this name. It makes sense. So we're just populating these layer. And building the talk is just the first function that you call to start building the rest of the talk. Can we do this in one function? Maybe, but this code should only execute once. That's the problem here. But yeah, all right. We might introduce bugs with this real factoring of ours, but we'll take care of it, guys. We'll take care of it. Okay, click. We have a click, on click, populate attributes table. Perfect. That's exactly what it does. Right? This button actually calls a function which populates the attribute table. Right? And this guy, where is he? Where is it? Populate attribute table. It takes an E, which is the target, which is an event. And then what does it do? It takes the layer ID because I actually put a layer ID in my button. In each button I put a property called layer ID. So that's why I know that whatever I'm passing, whoever called this function has a layer ID. That's why I know the layer ID. And then I'm going to execute a query. And that's fine, right? When I execute that query, what will happen is that I will execute a single query. Now, what we will do here, I'll execute a query, and that query will tell me like how many results do you want, how many features you want me to return. And that is where we need the count here. So I think what we're gonna do here is each call to view will basically make a query to get the count, and then make another query to actually query the table and return the features. And then what we're gonna do here is we'll build the table of content, but in a pages view. So we'll come to that. But before we do that, let's do this work. When I click view, I want to return the number of features in this layer. Let's do that. So now our little get count has to be modified. You give me a layer ID, and I will give you the count here. But what we're doing here is just weird. So what we're gonna need to fix is we probably need to return the count somehow. How can we do that? The best thing is actually to return a promise or return a function. So let's do that. So when this function is ready, I'm gonna send you the response, which response has the count here. So let's go ahead and have a function here instead. So if you want the count of this layer, you will send me two things: the layer ID and which function to call, right? Which we call the delegate, or layer count or feature count. Let's call it just feature count. A feature count is literally a function that you are responsible to send here, And what we will do here when we have the result is technically just do that, feature count, and send me the count, which is nothing but response. How does that sound, guys? Looks good. Sounds good. And if in case of any failure, I'm gonna send 0. We might debate that later, but I think this is good. Get count. Now get count is actually a function that now officially it does only one thing, which is just return the count. Let's use this on our populate. All right. So let's declare a variable here called feature count is equal to get count. What is the layer ID? You have to declare a variable here called layer ID. Let layer ID is equal to this, and then we're gonna use that get count, and then yeah, literally a function. You can use an arrow function, I believe. Count. Oh, we can't do that. That's wrong, Hussein. What are you doing? Remember, this is all async. So this variable is 0 by default. Get count c is equal feature count equals c. Arrow functions, man. Arrow functions are cool. Okay, now we're gonna have the feature count here. Before we execute that query, we have the feature count. Now I want to actually print that somewhere that we can see. And just for simplicity, guess what? I'm gonna do an alert. See if we actually worked. Now, and then we're gonna stop here and then continue in the next episode. Give me 0, sir. That is wrong. Oh, I know why. Again, async. It's always falling into the same trap. So you found that. Okay. All right. You found the count of the features, right? First you registered the function. Hey, by the way, go get me the feature count. But JavaScript, again, it doesn't stop. It's async, right? It's continuing. And what we did here is just basically alerted the first value before this got time to execute. That's what's happening here, guys. And it's good that we're running into this, so you guys will run into this eventually, right? While you're writing your own software. So, how can we fix this? We'll have to wait for this function to complete before actually continuing and executing the rest of the function. All right, so that whole code. So that makes me think like maybe we'll have to do this earlier, like execute that function when I click, execute that, and then send a function that actually populates the attributes table. So let's actually do that. Okay, populate attributes table taken before we actually populate the attribute table. This is an event, right? So function, let's call it on click of the button, open attribute table. Let's call it open attribute table, attributes table. And that takes the E. Before we attempt to populate it, we have to open it. And that will actually do this work for us, which is take that layer ID, give me the count. Then once that is ready, so maybe we need more than one line here, go ahead and actually populate the attributes table. And that guy here requires the layer ID, and guess what? We require the feature count as well. So we'll send you the layer ID, which I have here, and then we're going to send you the feature count. And then now here you're going to have the actual feature count, and you're going to do your query using the layer ID and execute the rest of the code. Let's see if that actually works. Oh, our code has broken. You know why, guys, right? Because now we have to call the correct function, or calling the wrong function, guys. Where is the button? The button.textView. Now, I swear I'm gonna fix this. Your disk is almost full. I'm using iCloud, so I have only 250 GB SSD on this Mac, so yeah, lots of videos. That's why I'm using, like, I have to 2 terabyte for iCloud, but I still didn't figure out how this optimization works. It's almost like empty, this iCloud thing, but it doesn't copy for some reason. Maybe I'll have to move everything manually. Alright, so we're going to call open attributes table instead of that other function. Oh, papa! Mama! Woo! That is sweet. That is so sweet. Look at that, guys. We actually cleaned up real good. Real good. That is good. That is good. So we know the feature count, and this is a very important piece of data that we need to know. And the reason is because we make decisions based on that puppy. Like real decisions. So let's do one more thing, and we'll end this episode, right? Yeah. Populating the table. Result record count, we're having it hard-coded to 50. Bad, bad, bad. I mean, we're still being hard-coded, but we have to hard-code it as an actual constant. Go up, get up, get out up, get up, get up. Default page size 50. Come on. There you go. Send in 50. So the default page size. Very, 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 very important. Now click on this. Water fitting. We're returning 50 records. Yeah, I also want to add another record here, which is like the page number. Not the page number, the row number. It's very important. Go all the way up. All the way up. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way. Okay, copyrighted music. We can't say anything on YouTube. God damn. I think you can mummer the song, right? They don't actually copyright you. You do that. Is it the 15? Look at that. This looks like 10. That looks like 10 to me. How about 5? What do you do with 5? Let's do 5. 5 a page. That's actually not bad, right? 5. Just simple. 5. Alright, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. More cleanup coming next one. Stay tuned. Bye.